From Washington, D.C., thanks for tuning in and welcome to the Harness Racing Alumni Show. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here today with Trade Martin and Bob Marks.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show with your hosts, Freddie Hudson and Trade Martin.
This week's Alumni Show is brought to you by Long Island's Century 21 American Homes Associate Broker, Joe Rico. If you're buying or selling your home, Joe Rico is your go-to guy. Joe has been representing buyers and sellers on Long Island for 30 years. He is an expert in all types of sales. Don't settle for average. Call or text Joe Rico today at 516-524-4870. That's Joe Rico at 516-524-4870. This week's special guest is the extraordinary standardbred owner and breeder, Mr. Myron Bell. Myron, welcome on the Alumni Show.
Well, thank you for having me. I don't know about extraordinary. Only Stephanie thinks I'm extraordinary some days.
Well, you've had a great career in harness racing. But, Myron, Captaintreacherous was from the first crop of Somebeachsomewhere. But yet he's the only Somebeachsomewhere foal purchased by your group. Why is that?
Well, in the first year, we wanted to, with the help of Tony Alanga, who deserves all the kudos, we went to all the farms, and we went to White Birch Farm, home of a great man who's not with us, him and his son Michael, Joe Parisi, who assembled a great broodmare band. And one of his mares was a full sister to Worldly Beauty, World Order. And she was a very good filly in her own right. He kept her as a broodmare. He sold Worldly Beauty to Di Valente Farm when she became a tremendous mare for them. But her first foal was by Somebeachsomewhere, and it was Captaintreacherous. And we saw his videos, and we knew he was a nice-looking colt. But we went to White Birch, Tony and myself, and the moment we saw him, we knew we were going to not only bid on him, but we were going to probably buy him. And he went for basically what we thought he would go for. He wasn't the most expensive captain sold, but he was in the top three. But, of course, he turned out to be very special as a racehorse and as a stallion now. So we're very fortunate to, identifying horses. Breeding doesn't guarantee success, good breeding, great breeding, but mediocre breeding guarantees failure. And I'm a believer in anything is possible but not probable. So we try to get the best breeding we can with the best individual. And Captain, to us, stood out that year. He was just a phenomenal horse, and he lived up to his hype, and he's become a very potent stallion.
No, definitely. Myron, you have long partnered with some of the major owners in the business. How did that come about?
Well, we're in the horse business, but we're more in the people business. I've been very fortunate to have friendships with a lot of people. Goes back to Tony Padone, the late Tony Padone, who I knew from New York racing, and I sold the mare Maywine for him way back in the early, mid-'80s. And I met George Siegel at the Harrisburg sale in 1981, and we became friendly. I didn't do work for George right away, but towards the mid-'80s, it's about 36 years now, we've been associated. And it's really, George and myself have been a very special relationship. He's given me an opportunity to play in the big leagues. I delivered, he delivered, and it works. And we continue. We speak almost every day, and we have a very good relationship because George has one thing in his mind when it comes to horses. He wants the best, and he's assembled a phenomenal broodmare band, and rightfully so. Every broodmare band is on the Internet. Every farm has their listing, and if people would just look at each one, you could figure out who has very good mares. And Brittany has been the leading breeder, average earnings per starter for the last 3 years now, against some heavy competition. George is 82 years old, but you wouldn't know it. I'm 80. I hope I don't know it, but we keep going, and we have one thing in mind, to try to get good horses, breed, buy, and race good horses.
Great.
But as far as my partners are concerned, I've been very, very fortunate to meet a lot of wonderful people in the business, and some have become partners and friends, and hopefully they still are friends.
Good. Myron, you've been around for a while. How, in your opinion, has the harness racing business evolved?
Well, I don't like to live in the past. I like to live in the present and future. But at one time, we were on a par with the thoroughbred brethren. What happened is a lot of different things which I won't go into. But we have to do the best we can with what we have. Of course, we're living on life support with the casino companies. But when you go to a horse sale, you would never know it. The horses are selling for tremendous value. I wouldn't say value. They're maybe overpriced to some people and underpriced to others. But the business is healthy for the breeding end of it, in my opinion. But as far as our expenses go up every year racing, and the purses haven't gone up enough to take care of inflation. We're a little behind at times. We need a better product on the racetrack. We need more people there, of course, but it's not easy to get people. There are so many different venues that people are interested in today. Young people, like my grandchildren, they're not getting exposed to racing like we did when we were young. We were the only game in town. So we have to do what we have and make it a better product. I wish I had all the answers, but no, I don't.
Yeah, I agreed, and I don't have all the answers either. Myron, do you care to comment on some of the great horses that you've observed over the years?
Well, as your friend Bob Marks would say, when we first started going to the Roosevelt Raceway and Yonkers Raceway, half-mile racing was basically all we were exposed to. We had day jobs. We had to work, so we went to the track at night, and we saw some great horses. You go start with Adios Butler and Stephen Smith, the brothers, and Irvin Paul. They were phenomenal. And the man that bred both of those, he had a mare, Edelena, who was the second dam is Ripples. The third dam is an all-time great mare, May Dodge, so he knew what he was doing. And then I saw all the greats, the Sumac Lairs, the Speedy Scotts on the trot, and all the great paces, starting with Adios Butler. But the reason, to get back a little, one of the reasons we bought Captaintreacherous is Romeo Hanover. Because Romeo, back in 1966, when he won the Triple Crown, he was out of a great mare, a great matron that Hanover had, Romola Hanover. And Romola Hanover produced Ramona Hanover, who produced World Order, who produced, Ramona, Rodine Hanover, World Order, and then the dam of Captaintreacherous. So there's always a link. Every farm has what they call foundation mares, and they try to keep the best daughters of those mares and grow with them. You have to identify them if they're going to go on, or it's just a one-shot wonder. But when you get a good mare like Romola Hanover, and she produces offspring, George Siegel, when he started out, he was lucky enough and smart enough to buy 3 Diamonds as a yearling. And she became a foundation mare like Leah Almhurst and Delinquent Account. And I'm happy I'm associated with those last 2. I've lived it, and it's wonderful that it still goes on 40, 50 years later, and hopefully it'll go on for another 50 years, that they keep producing if they're bred right and you get the right individual. But as far as great horses, I've seen them all, and there'll be other great ones coming along in the next decade.
Myron, my last question for you. What are your thoughts on the current state of harness racing?
Well, the current state of harness racing, look, we're on life support. Everybody knows that. But we can't think of we got to think of the good. People are still betting. They're still betting $3 to $4 million on a Saturday night at the Meadowlands, and the good horses haven't started racing yet. They'll start in the next 6 weeks or so. Hopefully, we'll have a good year at the windows as far as the handle, and that'll help people be healthy. The racetracks, it's important for New Jersey to get a couple of new stallions because the Meadowlands New Jersey needs some pacing stallions. We're working on it. We're trying our best. And it'll hopefully be going on as far as the breeding industry, but we need people to bet on our product. The gambler, if he sees a good product, he'll bet on it. And harness racing always has their cult following. They have a steady following. We just got to make it bigger and broader. And that is by getting the best horses there and the best drivers and the best trainers. And we try to buy good yearlings, and we put our money into the business. And everybody is very gung-ho. When you go to a yearling sale, people want the best, and they're willing to pay for it. And hopefully it'll go on for another few decades.
Yes, I agree. And Myron, that brings us to a close of the show. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was an honor to have you on our show.
Well, thank you guys for having me, and hope we could do it again someday, 10 years from now, Lord willing. But we have to keep rooting for our product. Harness racing has a tremendous following. It's small, but it's very durable. We really, the people that are in it really, it's like a cult following. And you can't say anything bad about our business as far as the insiders are concerned. We love it, and we live it.
Absolutely, and thank you, Myron. This week's Harness Racing Alumni Show is brought to you by Indiana Standardbred. Help is on the way. The son of Chapter 7 is now standing stud at Maple Lane Farm in Indiana. Hurry, there are still some 2021 season bookings available. Help is on the way. For booking your mare or for more information, contact Karen Weaver at 717-252-0721. Help is on the way. Contact Karen Weaver at 717-252-0721. This is Freddie Hudson, and that's a wrap for this week's 98th broadcast. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune in next week.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show